4 cars. But right now, the position he's in, he actually has a small advantage because everybody else is opening the air up in front of him. And he, oh, here we go.
Trouble contact and a huge crash. Up in turn number 2. Oh, multiple cars involved. Oh, my. It looks like Dan Wheldon may be involved in it.
And Eddie, you and I spoke about this morning on the drive-in. Just this amount of cars, the speed, just the chance for what they call the big one.
And what happens in conditions like that, when you're, even if you're 300 yards behind that, you cannot stop these cars. The only option you have is to try to avoid it, and it was impossible to avoid anything there.
And you saw willpower. His car involved as well. My. What a mess. That's Townsend Bell that was, I think his car was up on its side there, the 22.
15 there of Jay Howard. An additional entry. Excuse me, is that the 19 or 15? I can't see with the sun shining there. Some of the car is broken. They're showing that as Alex Lloyd, the 19.
It's the 15 of Jay Howard.
Yes.
One of the cars actually flew for about 200 yards in the air.
Red flag is out here at Las Vegas
from
Motor
the low
Speedway.
side to the high, from the high side down low to get going for the turn. And what ends up happening is that he got stuck back up there, turned around, tried to take another move going down, guys, and the back end started to come around, and that started the chain reaction.
He was uncomfortable being on the top lane, and he tried, like you said, there's the car. Look, there's 2 cars that are airborne. This puts
that's
Wheldon racing in perspective. This is the horrible accident that everybody has always hoped would never occur.
And as we said, 15 cars we now know of involved.
Like you said, there's the car. Look, there's 2 cars that are airborne. This puts
that's
Wheldon racing in perspective. This is the horrible accident that everybody has always hoped would never occur.
There is Dario Franchitti. Somehow he managed to get through the carnage, but
Sure, guys, I mean, there's just nothing I can do.
willpower did not.
10-4. They are going to stop you at pit lane on the right-hand side. They want the drivers to stay in the cars.
What Franchitti was alluding to is there's nothing he can do avoiding the debris that's on the track.
Well, there is debris everywhere. You can see just how many cars are literally torn apart.
Exactly what happened in this 15-car melee.
And Eddie, as we know, when you're driving along at these speeds, you're going the length of a football field in less than a second. So if something happens in front of you, you can never have enough reaction time.
It's impossible. You have no time to do anything. What happens maybe is just a small miscommunication between 2 drivers. Somebody spins and you have...
Eddie, as you know, we talked about it a moment ago, it's just reactionary time, and you hope that there's a clear path for you to go through. Now, as we see the car starting to touch and go airborne, as a driver, you're looking for a clean hole, but sometimes when you get to that clean hole, it is then filled with other cars or debris.
And look at this from high above. And this was the one thing we were fearing when we saw qualifying and the 2 championship contenders in the middle of the field, a big crash like this early in the race.
What happens in accidents like this is that a single mistake by anybody, which might be dirty air, could be anything, multiplies itself so fast that you start accumulating cars. There's no way that you can control what happens. Once you start spinning at those speeds, it's impossible. It's impossible to solve the problem.
And when we were watching that, Eddie, I'm not sure that anybody made a mistake, because I started to see some sparks. I was wondering if actually there was a
15-car crash situation at Las Vegas, the final race of the IndyCar Series. And Derek, we just got word they just had a press conference, and the news not good here for Dan Wheldon.
The news is not good here for Dan, and of course he's a friend of ours here on Wish TV. This was the most violent and destructive IndyCar crash I have ever seen.
And we just got word that unfortunately he has passed away due to that crash.
Yeah, and we did not want to make that announcement. We heard that about 40 minutes ago from people we have actually on the racetrack.
That's right. And we just got the official word from IndyCar officials that Dan Wheldon has passed away due to this the crash that took place at Las Vegas this afternoon. And they have obviously called the race, and they're going to do a 5-lap tribute around the track for the 2-time Indy 500 champion and Dan Wheldon.
You know, this is hard to take, because
Yeah.
We as racing drivers, you know that the occupational hazard is that there could be a major accident. You could pay the ultimate price with your life. We hate to even talk about it, but when it hits as close to home as it does today, when a friend of ours, a friend of our stations, a personal friend of mine, a bit of a coach to my son gets involved in an accident like that, it's hard to report on events like this. And, you know, we begin to shake when we hear the news, and there's this unbelievable feel to it. And it's hard to believe as we watch these pictures, this is just the month of May.
That's
the
right.
Celebration, the greatest time of his life. He was here with his wife Susie, his young son Sebastian, in fact his brand new baby. I don't know her name, but it's hard to believe this was the month of May. Look at the joy, and we're now reporting that his life has ended chasing the dream he has chased since he was a young boy in go-karts in England.
Our Ashley Adamson, she is in Las Vegas. She was in that press room when they made the announcement that Dan Wheldon has passed away, and this just horrific, horrible crash out in Las Vegas this afternoon, the final race of the IndyCar Series.